Mary Magdalene, the hidden gospel, and the unrevealed secret of the first apostle. You are about to discover a secret that has been buried for centuries, hidden in the shadows of history. A secret that, if revealed, could completely transform the way we view Christianity and its oldest pillars. We will delve into the fascinating works, the rejected gospel of Mary Magdalene and Mary Magdalene Revealed, exploring a mysterious truth that has been forgotten or perhaps purposefully silenced. Who was Mary Magdalene really? Just a faithful follower of Jesus? Or the first apostle, the true guardian of a spiritual knowledge that was deliberately erased at the hands of patriarchal power? Imagine a gospel that contains teachings never before seen, a gospel that speaks to us directly about the power of the soul, the search for inner truth, and a spirituality based on love and equality. And now imagine that this gospel was rejected, hidden, and ignored. In this episode, we will unravel the mysteries of two game-changing texts. One of them was rejected, suppressed, perhaps because it contained spiritual truths that would challenge established dogma. The other, Mary Magdalene Revealed, brings an even deeper revelation. Christianity as we know it may be just a distorted version of a larger, more inclusive truth in which Mary Magdalene occupies the central role, a position that history has tried to erase. But why was her story omitted? What were the teachings that Mary Magdalene brought, and why did they threaten the early church so much? Imagine a strong, powerful woman, not the repentant prostitute that many know, but the true confidant of Jesus, someone who understood the deepest spiritual mysteries, perhaps more than any other disciple. In this gospel, Mary Magdalene speaks to us about the nature of the soul and the transformative power of self-knowledge, offering a vision of spirituality that places power in the hands of the individual, away from imposed rituals. What if the Christianity we have never tried is in fact the true path? A path where there are no barriers between men and women, where female spiritual leadership has its place alongside the great masters. A Christianity centered on introspection and the inner journey, a path that has been hidden from us and is now ready to be rediscovered. We will explore the lost gospel of Mary Magdalene and unravel why her words were so dangerous to the religious establishment. Why would the church fear a message of empowerment and direct connection with the divine? Could this be the key to a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be a follower of Christ? Get ready for a revelation that will challenge your beliefs and spark your curiosity. Throughout this episode, we will bring to light secrets that have been hidden for time, and with each new discovery, you will see how Mary Magdalene may have been the true first apostle, the pioneer of a feminist and transformative spirituality. Stay until the end, because what you are about to discover may change everything you thought you knew about faith, history, and the power of the divine within each of us. This is the mystery of Mary Magdalene Revealed, and it's about to be solved. The hidden gospel of Mary Magdalene. Imagine for a moment that you are an explorer of the mysteries of history, but not just any history, but the forgotten history. There is a gospel that many have never heard of, a gospel that could change everything we think we know about the enigmatic figure of Mary Magdalene. Now you may be asking yourself, why have I never heard of this? And the answer is both simple and complex at the same time. This gospel has been rejected, ignored, and buried by the forces that control what is seen as acceptable in terms of faith. But we are here to unearth what has been hidden. The journey begins in the 19th century, when fragments of ancient manuscripts were found in a library in Egypt. Among them was the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. However, instead of being celebrated as a new spiritual discovery, the text was rejected. Yes, rejected. The question that haunts us is, why? Perhaps because if we were to accept Mary Magdalene as the author of a gospel, we would have to rewrite centuries of Christian history. We would have to face a new narrative, one in which Mary Magdalene is not just a redeemed sinner, but the true apostle of Jesus. What did she know that others did not? In the context of early Christianity, the struggle for control of the narrative was fierce. Only a few Gospels were included in the New Testament, and many others were labeled heretical. Among these dangerous texts was Mary's. You can begin to sense the pattern emerging. The early church, ruled by men, marginalized anything that might threaten its patriarchal vision of faith. And here is where the suspense deepens. What was it about this gospel that caused so much discomfort? In the text, Mary Magdalene appears as a central figure, Jesus' confidant, the only one who fully understood his deepest teachings. But what is most fascinating and disturbing is that she teaches something radical. True salvation does not come from outside, from a religious authority or institution, but from within. Imagine the impact of these words at a time when the church was beginning to consolidate its power. If salvation did not come through its rituals, then where would it come from? From the soul, Mary tells us, and from self-knowledge. A revolutionary teaching for an age controlled by rigid dogma. Can you feel the weight of this mystery? Why reject a gospel that preaches self-knowledge and personal connection with the divine? Perhaps it is because it threatened the power structures that were forming. What Mary Magdalene knew was too powerful to be accepted without risk. The suspense continues. What else could she have revealed that was taken from us? As we move forward on this journey of discovery, it is impossible not to wonder, if this message had been accepted, what would Christianity look like today? A Christianity that values the feminine, introspection, and inner power. What have we lost by rejecting this gospel? The first apostle, a forgotten role. Imagine a different scenario, one where women's voices were not silenced, where Christian history was not written solely by men. At some point, everything could have been different. The figure of Mary Magdalene, for example, would not be a nebulous shadow relegated to the corner of the narrative, but the protagonist. Yes, Mary Magdalene would not be just the follower of Jesus. She would be seen as the true first apostle. But what happened to this story? How was it that Mary, so close to Jesus, was slowly erased from the official record? And why? The idea of Mary Magdalene as the first apostle is such a radical notion that many of us don't even consider it. After all, the canonical Gospels do not place her in that role. But then come the rejected texts, those that were dismissed as heretical, too uncomfortable, too dangerous for the official version. And that is precisely where we find the Gospel of Mary, where she is much more than just a follower. She is the one who understood, in a unique way, the teachings of Jesus. In the Gospel of Mary, we see a scenario that is not found in the accepted texts. Mary is teaching the other disciples. That's right. Imagine the reaction of the men around her. Peter, John, Thomas, all listening, but of course, with skepticism. After all, how could a woman have such wisdom? How could she, and not them, receive the deepest truths from Jesus? The Gospel portrays this tension. The disciples question Mary's role, they challenge her, and the suspense grows. What did she know that they did not? What spiritual secrets were entrusted to Mary Magdalene that the other disciples simply could not understand? There is something revolutionary in this gospel, something that threatens the foundation of an entire power structure that was forming at that time. If we accepted that Mary Magdalene was Jesus' closest confidant, it would completely change the Christian narrative as we know it. Just imagine a woman, at the center of everything, directly challenging male power and authority within the nascent church. But here's the intriguing part. While the other disciples, especially Peter, express their disbelief and jealousy, Mary remains calm, serene. She understands what they cannot yet understand. Jesus' message to her was clear. The divine cannot be confined to a patriarchal system. Truth is fluid. It is in every soul, regardless of gender. Mary knew this, and that is why her message was so dangerous. What remains in the air is this tension between Mary's role and the establishment's need to consolidate power. If Mary Magdalene were accepted as the true apostle, What would that mean for the early church? And why was this idea suppressed? Once again, we return to the mystery. What was at stake for Mary's spiritual leadership to be erased? Perhaps power was not just over religious structures, but over the very way we connect with the divine. The question remains, are we ready to accept this Mary Magdalene, the true apostle? The Lost Gospel, Secrets of the Soul. Imagine that for a brief moment, you can open a door to the past. On the other side, there is not what we expect. Instead of revered heroes and pristine sacred texts, there are fragments, forgotten bits of truth, scattered and rejected by those who shaped what we understand as religion. And here, among these fragments, is the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, a text so profound and disturbing that it has been silenced. But why? What does it reveal that so many would rather never have been exposed? You see, in this lost gospel, we find something that not only challenges established narratives, but turns the very concept of spirituality upside down. Jesus, according to Mary, was not just preaching salvation to others. He was telling us that the true path to the divine is found within ourselves. Now that sounds simple, even comforting, right? Wrong. This teaching, in the context of an emerging church seeking to consolidate its external authority, was a direct threat. Imagine the revolution Mary proposed. Each person, each soul, holds the key to their own awakening. Now here's where things get really intriguing. According to this gospel, Mary wasn't just transmitting Jesus' words. She was interpreting them in a way no other disciple could. Whereas Peter and the others saw the kingdom of God as something external, Mary saw it as an internal state of being. And that changes everything, because if the divine is within you, why do we need an institution to mediate that connection? Here's the crux of the mystery. Why would such a liberating message be rejected? Why would a gospel that teaches introspection and self-knowledge be buried, while others that emphasize control and obedience were exalted? The answer, as always, lies in power. If people believed they didn't need intermediaries to connect with God, the entire structure of the church could crumble. Now imagine the impact of this in the 2nd century. The church was in its infancy, trying to define its identity. It was a time of intense theological struggle, with different factions competing for control of Christian truth. And in the midst of this chaos, we have the Gospel of Mary Magdalene offering a radical vision of personal spirituality. It's easy to see why those trying to build an ecclesiastical hierarchy would be afraid of this message. If each person has the ability to reach the divine on their own, where does that leave priests, bishops, and the entire religious bureaucracy? This lost gospel leaves us with more questions than answers. What did Mary really know? And why was her gospel deemed too dangerous to include in the official canon? We can only speculate, but one thing is certain: the mystery surrounding the Gospel of Mary continues to challenge our deepest assumptions about faith, power, and the nature of the soul. Are we ready to face these revelations? Or will we continue to ignore the secrets that have been so skillfully buried? The answer, like the lost gospel, is waiting to be unearthed within each of us. The conflict with Peter, the clash of power and wisdom. Imagine yourself in a closed room filled with tension. On one side, Peter, the fervent disciple who, from the beginning, saw himself as the natural successor to Jesus. On the other, Mary Magdalene, carrying a knowledge that goes beyond what is said, that comes from within. This is not just a conflict between two people, it is the clash between two worldviews. Peter sees faith as something to be structured, controlled, kept in order. Mary, on the other hand, sees spirituality as a free, fluid force, something that grows from the inside out. What happens when these two visions collide? Let's get straight to the point. Peter never understood Mary, and the Gospel of Mary makes this painfully clear. When she begins to share the revelation she received from Jesus, Peter squirms. His reaction is immediate: distrust. How could a woman, and not him, be so connected to Jesus? How could she, a simple follower, have a deeper understanding of the Master's teachings? The question echoes through the space. How dare she? Now look beyond the surface. This conflict is not just about Mary and Peter. What is at stake is the future of Christianity, the way the faith will be built and spread. Peter wants a church, something concrete, institutionalized, something he can lead, something he can control. Mary wants spiritual freedom. She is talking about something radical, the idea that each individual can find his or her own connection to the divine without needing an external authority. But Peter, like most men of his time, is not prepared for this idea. For him, authority comes from power, from structure. And Mary Magdalene, she challenges all that. This confrontation, in fact, goes beyond a simple disagreement between two disciples. It reflects the conflict between hierarchy and pure spirituality, between control and freedom. And the fascinating thing is that this is not just a problem of the past. We still face this tension in organized religions today. Who has the right to interpret the sacred teachings? Who has the power to say what is right and what is heresy? The tension grows. Peter questions Mary Magdalene, tries to discredit her in front of the other disciples, but she remains firm. She knows that the truth she carries is greater than any power structure. She knows that what Jesus taught was not to be kept in boxes or codified in laws, but lived in every heart, in every soul. The suspense grows. Will Mary Magdalene submit to the pressure? Or will her vision of a free spirituality prevail? The curious thing is that in the end, the official story favored Peter. He became the leader of the church. His vision of an institutionalized faith triumphed. But Mary Magdalene never completely disappeared. Her gospel, rejected, hidden for centuries, continues to resonate among those who seek something deeper, something beyond the walls of a church. And so, the mystery persists. What would have happened if Mary Magdalene had been heard? What if the vision of a spirituality without boundaries, without gender barriers, had prevailed? What have we lost by ignoring its wisdom? These are the questions that haunt us to this day, the echo of a conflict that continues to reverberate through the centuries. The hidden journey of Mary Magdalene, ascension, illusion, and the suppressed truth. The Gospel of Mary is not just a bunch of sacred words that you find lying around. No, my friend. It is much more. It is a true map, a riddle, almost a cosmic joke, for those brave enough to decipher it. And what does it talk about? About the ascension of the soul, of course. But it is not just any ascension. It is a process so surreal that you begin to ask yourself, why has no one told me this before? And here we come to the burning question. What the hell does this ascension of the soul mean? In the midst of this hidden gospel, Mary Magdalene, yes, her, describes a journey through the different spiritual planes, each one more challenging, more bizarre, more mind-blowing than the last. Imagine this as a spiritual epic, where she has to face dark beings called Archons, who are not just mythological figures, but representations of her greatest fears, ignorance, and, of course, her desperate attachment to the material world. Sound familiar? Now comes the good part. With each new plane she crosses, she not only faces these guardians, but she also frees herself from yet another illusion. It's as if reality is being deconstructed piece by piece. No, she's not going to the heaven of children's stories. She's literally dissolving the boundaries between what we think is real and what really is, between the self and the whole, between the individual and the universal. Does this change the traditional view of life after death? Oh, absolutely. But the really interesting part, the ascension of the soul, is not a gift exclusive to Mary. No, dear viewer, this is for you too. Yes, you. We all have this ability. We just need to free ourselves from this pathetic attachment to the material world. And guess who doesn't want you to find out? Yes, the religious establishment. If you knew that you didn't need intermediaries, that you could access the divine on your own, what would happen to the entire power structure? What happens if everyone knows? That's where the game gets interesting. If everyone knows that true spirituality is an internal journey, what happens to those who depend on the spiritual ignorance of the masses to maintain control? The answer is not so hard to imagine. Perhaps that's why the Gospel of Mary was rejected and banned. You can't institutionalize spiritual freedom, can you? And let's face it, where would religious leaders be without control over the minds and souls of the masses? An invitation to freedom. Ultimately, Mary Magdalene's journey is not just about her. It's about me, you, all of us. Her ascension is a mirror to our own truth. But the question is, are you ready to face your own Archons? Ready to explore the depths of your own soul? Or will you continue to be trapped in the chains of your own making? Mary's vision was liberating, even radical. She didn't speak of complicated rituals, blind obedience, or the need for spiritual authorities. No, her message was simple and devastating. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Yes, within you, not in some distant temple. And that, my friends, is a real threat to the powers that be. Now, what do we do with this truth? This truth has been hidden, classified as heresy, thrown into oblivion. But truth, like a good joke, always finds a way to survive. Mary Magdalene's words have crossed the centuries and reached us today. So what are you going to do with this now? Are you going to look the other way? Or are you going to face it head on? Because the truth, the real truth, is waiting for you. And as always, it is hidden in the shadows, just waiting for those brave enough to question the established narratives. Now that you know this disturbing truth, tell me, do you think we have been deceived? Has true spirituality been hidden from us? I want to hear your opinion. Comment below and share your insight. Oh, and get ready, because in the next Gaia's Ascension video, we'll dive even deeper into the mysteries that the establishment doesn't want you to discover. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to continue this journey. The adventure is just beginning.